Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you in another video. I'm just dealing with corporations as usual. It's 4:30 in the morning. As always, when you're on this level, trying to buy groceries and trying to get cell phone coverage and all different types of stuff, you run into the pitfalls that are set up for people on this level to basically, fail so that you can continue on the path of being a low-level consumer. Um, you know, this is just one more thing that they do uh, to cut costs is nickel and dime the hell out of people. Amazon at it again, trying to get myself some groceries, and got a certain amount in the account because, of course, if you know me, you know where the rest of my money's at. There's no secret to what I'm about and what I'm doing. But right now, my snap has been cut off, so I'm using my very own cash to buy groceries like a normal human being. And what I end up finding out is they are charging you more uh, than what they need to, so that they can cover any additional charges that may come with them substituting items that they may or may not have available to give you. So I keep putting in my order, thinking I'm gonna put my order in and get myself some sleep. I turn over, look at my phone, they keep declining the freaking order. And I look at my account, the money's set. There should be no reason for me to not be able to execute my situation there. So I keep on trying. They keep on declining every 2 minutes. They send me a text telling me it's declining. I keep checking the money, it's fine. I keep checking the amount, it's fine. And then I look in the little at the bottom of the receipt, and it says, no, we're going to charge you an extra $7 for what it is I said. I'm like, so that explains it. So the amount after taxes that it shows you that you have to pay ain't actually what they're snatching out of your account. Because if you click a little lower, you'll find out that they're taking a little extra off the top for what may or may not be. These are things that a regular consumer is not going to pay any attention to. And these are the type of things that are happening to you everywhere you turn. Every service is nickel and diming you, or trying small little things like this to put themselves in an advantageous position with you. Because every one of you adds up to a whole lot of money when they do that. Even if they're only nickeling you, it still adds up. And we're talking about one of the richest, biggest, and broadest corporations that the world will ever see. I am tired of these people. And I ain't just talking about them. I'm talking about every single one of the services that practice this behavior. And as I've said in this camera, I truly believe that this generation is being flushed down the toilet. All of our effort, all of our work, everything that we're doing is being flushed down the toilet because we're living in a time where all of our money is being manipulated. All of our services are not balanced in terms of your effort versus what you receive. You are being skimmed off the top everywhere you look. This is the era of getting over on consumers. That's exactly what this is. Because we're in a strange transition between not having the internet and now the internet being live. And there's a lot of things that have not been addressed. A lot of things that we are doing that are unprecedented, that have not been regulated or checked. And this is one of these companies. These corporations have gotten too big, and they are behaving as gods without reason in regards to divvying out mercy. And that's what I see there. And I think if you keep them on that path, they will evolve into something much worse in their practices. And I document my experiences. I do. I get on this camera and I tell you about what's going on with T-Mobile and Metro and how those guys have yet to send me my SIM card. It's been, 2 weeks? You guys know more than I do because I've been documenting it. So however long it's been that. I'm still on T-Mobile's network against my own will, having already paid Metro $300 to take care of the entire year, having already paid T-Mobile $500 to get out of my contract and pay off my phone. And I still can't get away from these people because of whatever is going on behind the scenes that they have not communicated with me at all. They're hoping I forget about. Metro still has my 3, T-Mobile still has my 5 and my rights, and will be billing me this month for what we're doing right here. This is unfair. That's simply unfair. You know what I mean? You get to a point where you just understand that you're being screwed over by two companies that are one company. And this type of stuff I'm talking about. And I will get in this camera and I will express my concerns and leave it at that. Because that's all you can do. Throwing rocks at a wall. But one thing's for certain. You throw enough rocks at that wall, and eventually someone will come outside. And that's the point. That is the point. So that's really all I got to say about the circumstance. Anything else is just me waking up this morning trying to connect with you guys. Hopefully you're having a wonderful time whenever you're watching this. Obviously I appreciate everybody who checks out my therapy session series. This is my birthday month. Birthday's coming up in, what's today, the 2nd? It's on the 18th, 16 days. And the mission I'm on right now is peace, meditation, healing, and the practice of keeping things going that have worked. That's where I'm at. Just doing things that have continued to be, worked on in my life, in terms of this channel, in terms of art, in terms of the playlist curation project that I've worked on. Follow me at Apple Music BDF if you're interested in checking out what I'm doing. And it's those practices that are helping me heal in regards to everything else. Because little stuff like this, what made me turn the camera on, if I didn't have a camera outlet, I'm pretty sure it would lead to me having a bad day and not really having no way to get rid of that energy other than a negative, wasting time behavior, I guess you could say. And so I've grown a lot over the last 3 years starting this channel and doing all those things. I can say that I've gotten better on the inside in terms of being able to challenge myself to, I'd say, listen to that conscience inside, that inner voice that tells me to do things that I know I should. I can honestly say it's getting easier to follow that voice. It's getting easier to follow that voice. The more I heal, the more I do things that help promote healing within myself. That's when it becomes easier to do things that may not have otherwise been easy to convince myself to do. And so as I grow in that way, that's what I refer to in terms of doing things that work, continuing to practice, because I set out a mission to do something in regards to these different practices and have now gotten underway. They're now habit at this point. So that's where I'm at with it, man. That's what it's about. It's about a long marathon, churning and establishing the right habits and keeping up with them. And so if anything, aside from all that I have to react to in my life, things that I've created with my choices, to be exact, I also have this newfound outlet to help me channel all of that into something positive, channel all that into something that will be helpful and creative. So yeah, letting it be, man, letting it be what it's going to be. I'm approaching 3,000 art pieces. 3,000. I think I'm like 20 away from that. That's a big deal for me because, of course, I've started this process back in, what was it, somewhere between October and December. I never can figure it out. Somewhere, I think it was like October or something like that. And have literally, had this carry me the whole time. Like, it's carried me. Art has carried me. In some of the most impactful moments of emotional feeling, of deep thought, meditation, clarity, coming to conclusions, realizing certain things had not been addressed that I thought had been long taken care of. Stuff like that took place while I was making art pieces. I was having those breakthrough moments with a pen in my hand, with art coloring in my hand. Moments where I had to tell myself it's okay to let that situation go, or it is time to start looking at this situation differently, or it is time to start accepting that this has long been something that never made sense. I've been having those moments while doing art. Or even better, just understanding that I've replaced time wasting with something creative, and seeing how that has manifested into getting better at something that I thought I was never any good at. That's, I guess, the most fruitful point of this, as to where I was spending all this time playing video games in the past and doing things that didn't otherwise make me better. Now, having able to find this practice, turn that upside down on its axis, and start to be proud of yourself for the time that you spend in the practices that you have. So, same hours, much more productive stuff, man. So I can definitely appreciate where the Lord has brought me in regards to that. Also thinking a lot about the old elderly people in my life, people I don't speak with because of how my personality is, but people I care a great deal about. You just understand when people pass away. We lost Bill Russell and several others that we are paying attention to this week, and it's just like, you think about the people in your life. I got aunties and a grandfather, I got uncles and people that I care a great deal about that are they're continuing to have long lives. And with that comes the realization that you have to say goodbye at some point to people, and that's just what it is. Now, granted, goodbye for me is different, man, because I don't really ever say hello, which is unfortunate, and that's the reality of my life. But it doesn't reflect my concern. In my own unique way, I still very much care and want to know that everybody is continuing on the path of being well. That's what it's about. So I've been thinking a lot about my elderly people lately, and just trying to maintain the understanding that I too am getting older. Even though I'm still in my 30s, it won't be for much longer. And of course, with this birthday coming up, you have to think about where you're going to be 20 years from now. You have to think about how easy it is to take care of yourself, and maybe it won't be later on. You know what I mean? And how, and living in this life of isolation, I ain't gonna be able to keep it up forever. At some point in time, I'm gonna have to welcome others into my comfort zone in order to function properly. And that, for this particular brain, provides a lot of questions. It's not anxiety necessarily, because at some point I'd like to see myself as somebody who's well past this phase and has a family in his life. You know what I mean? That's ultimately where I hope to heal to, respecting the fact that I'm a man and can do that with how this goes with my body. I still look forward to such things. And so, given that gift as it is, even though I am at this age, I'm still very much thinking about the future and how much energy I want to have for what's ahead. And so I've been pushing myself, with my fitness. I've been continuing to eat food that doesn't really taste all that great, to keep my weight where it needs to be, to keep myself moving in a good way. And so, that's what it is, man. But thinking a lot about these different things, thinking about my health, thinking about other people's health, thinking about stress and how it affects that, and how I want the stress to go away, but can't seem to necessarily bring myself to do everything I need to do to fix different issues in my life, which will also probably bring about stress in handling them themselves. So it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't. And I'm always managing immense amounts of stress, unnecessary stress that I place upon myself with this particular brain. So we manage it, we utilize it, we discover what it can do, and we just keep living, because that's all God gave us, is life. So we appreciate it moving forward and respect the fact that somebody somewhere just wasn't able to get that blessing. So even when days are not so great, you want to remember that there's balance to be had in regards to how you perceive it. So that's what I'm looking to find, man. And I think I found that in this camera right now. I think I'm all right, given that I have to deal with certain things that haven't been addressed. And as I meditate on some of those things, I honestly come to the conclusion that even though they must be addressed, they don't necessarily need to be addressed when I'm anxious about them. If for some reason I find myself overly stressed about it in the moment, I think a lot of times we tell ourselves there's deadlines that may not necessarily be there in regards to trying to keep up with imaginary standards. You know what I mean? Standards that don't necessarily exist. I think some people think that way. I know I do sometimes. So to remind myself that, hey, you're heaping stress on yourself that ain't necessary, and the way to get to where you want to go is to turn that off. Turn that part of your brain that tells you that you can't do, that you haven't done, or that you're scolding yourself for not doing, off. Because that aspect of your brain only further reinforces what is wrong, and it doesn't cater itself to the solution of things. And so as I learn what energy works for me, what helps me accomplish my goals, I realize that telling myself things that I've always told myself ultimately point in the wrong direction. So you got to give encouragement. I say things like, you're doing fine, to myself all day long, like little stuff like that, to remind myself that inner voice inside is still rooting for me to succeed in overcoming certain things that I've really, really ultimately struggled with. And as a result of that, with the practices of different things and the prayer that I do and all of that, I'm finding it easier to discipline myself away from certain things that I struggled with. And that's where I can honestly say it's been a real breakthrough for me on a personal level in regards to some things that I've been struggling with over the past, I don't even know how long that's been a problem, but I can honestly say that we're starting to hear some inner changes that I've been waiting to see for a very long time. So that's a breakthrough for me on a personal level, and I think it's a foundation that I'm trying to set. As I meditated on the word foundation, since I say it so much in this camera, I meditate on it, and what came to mind is, for myself, where I'm at, picture getting to a position where you've demolished all of the stuff that needs to go. You had a big, huge abandoned house, bando, sitting on your property. It needed to go. You've moved out all that has been destroyed, right? After the demolishing, that's been destroyed. And now you're soiling the ground because you plan on building something fantastic there. That's where I'm at in regards to my meditation on the idea of laying a foundation that can overcome my stresses, that can overcome my mental illness, that can overcome whatever what may, just my weakness in general. I think what I've done is demolish what needed to go, cleared out the rubble, and have more or less now started to soil the earth underneath it. What I plan on building there is an entire garden of security, of success, of humility, respect, of balance, and ultimately being able to take care of what's in front of me in ways that I was never allowing myself to in the past. Taking on information, even being more intelligent in regards to retaining that information. I believe that all of those things are possible as I continue on this path of making myself better from the inside out. So meditation is key. And I'll share with you what came to me last night, as I shared with a friend of mine as well. When I meditated on how I felt about canceling people, particularly, and when I say canceling people, I mean not in the cancel culture form, in the forms of cancel culture, but in forms of my mind and how I'm not going to be able to follow you because you may have done this or that. In regards to that, I was meditating on that last night, and what came to me from myself not for you, because this isn't what came from an internal space of your mind. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is what I came to conclusion in regards to digging deep into myself. I am not supposed to use my differentiating tactics in terms of, okay, I'm not allowing myself to support you because you've done this. Your guilt, for example, whatever you might have done, if I'm aware of it. In my mind, before I meditated last night, I may not have been as eager to pray for you or support you in my heart if you were guilty of certain things that I could not support. Just like cancel culture, within myself, in my own mind, I would get to a point where I'm like, I have my biases in the way of what I'm willing to spiritually wish for that person. And what I found was that does not work for me anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that I can surround myself with people that do things that I can't get with, or try to mesh my energy with people that otherwise aren't like me. That's not what I'm saying. But as it pertains to, for example, I may not be willing to play R. Kelly's music necessarily, as an example. But digging deep into myself and praying about it, I can't move forward in the way that I need to if I'm unwilling to pray for that man because of his guilt. That's what came to me. Now, like I said, I'm not telling you that's what works for you, because that's not the wisdom you found. It's the wisdom I found for myself. But that's how I have to be. That's what works for me. I don't need to be picking and choosing based on other people's sins who I'm willing to wish well for. That's not it. That's not the way to go. What came to me was, those who are most guilty need the most prayer. That's what came to me. Those who you perceive as less guilty probably don't need as much. So while we're sitting there willing to only pray for those who are worthy of what it is we deem are worthy, what ends up happening is you end up neglecting to provide prayer for those who actually need it the most. And I word it that way for believers because that's the way it came to me. But for those who are non-believers, I worded it the first way so you guys can palate it just the same. But at the end of the day, that doesn't work for me. You know, I have to be willing and open to pray for everybody, especially the guilty. That doesn't mean I can support you, or that I can get with what you do, or that I'm giving you a pass, or that I'm wishing that you don't go sit down for things that you've done wrong, or any of that. I'm not declaring the thought on that. I'm just simply saying that no longer works in terms of whether or not I'm willing to pray for the betterment of you. Just because you're guilty, that's even more of a reason to pray. So that's what came to me in meditative, moments last night. That's what came to me, man. That's exactly what came to me. And, take that for what it's worth, man. I don't know if that works for you. Maybe in your life you need to, do that. Maybe you need to not pray for people who have done horrible things, for whatever works for you. But I think the key to me sharing that with you is telling you that I didn't realize that before meditating. I think that's the key to it, is that I had to dig deep in myself in that breathing technique, rhythm or what have you, to come to such a conclusion. The everyday living of my life, even though I don't really go anywhere, even though I don't do anything that would keep me as distracted as maybe the average person right now. It took me having intent on meditating, and took intent on me looking inward to discover that opinion, to discover that feeling or that truth or that realization or that process. And I think we all need to respect the fact that we're in a world that we are distracted in, where corporations are doing all kinds of stuff to keep us thinking about other things, where life and family will have us looking at things that are very important, but neglecting other things that I'm taking a look at right here. And that's, I guess, the point of view that I can provide that holds value. And maybe others are too distracted to look at some of the stuff that I'm paying attention to, or got too much going on to where they're not in a position and I am. So that's what it is, man. I'm meditating, I'm digging deep, and I'm hoping to come out better for it. So far, so good. And I appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate everybody's patience. I understand that I'm a work in progress, and as somebody who has a voice, a lot of times people expect you to have the answers. I think the answers come as I grow, and I'll give them to you when they come. But until then, I'm going to be wrong sometimes, and I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to be very okay with that. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to not always be right. It's to grow. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching.